To our focus of the day, the implementation of the Companies and Incomes and Allied Act, that's CAMA, Companies Matters and Allied, that's CAMA 2020, which make tax compliance mandatory for non-governmental organizations registered under the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, remains the bane of recent conversations. This has been on. A lot of reactions have followed this development. Now, the Act stipulates that if an NGO engages in any trade or business activities, the profit derived from will be subject to income tax. Going by the new CAMA 2020 law, NGOs are now under the control of the Corporate Affairs Commission, making payments of taxes on commercial activities mandatory, with exemptions from income derived from the primary registered activities such as foreign and domestic grant subscriptions, membership dues, donations, gifts, and endowments. Amidst the controversial stamp duty charge by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the resultant effect is perceived as multiple tax burden on charitable organizations, which might hamper their impact and significant role being played by these organizations in building a strong, caring, and well-functioning society, as well as in contributing to its welfare and economic growth. Joining me live on the show today, it's actually part 2 to talk more on this. The conversation is the managing consultant, Pedabo, Mr. Albert Folorunso. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Folorunso.
Good afternoon.
It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, I want to start with, government has maintained that CAMA is to support ease of doing business, to make Nigeria more competitive and attract investments. But reaction shows that there is still no kind of clarity that we expect. What do you think about that?
Well, you know that the old CAMA was 30 years ago when it was amended. So Nigeria is more or less like 30 years behind several other countries. Major amendments that have been made are really required if we really want to move the business environment forward. For example, we have the process of holding meetings, okay, which had hitherto been fixed physical, but now you can hold your meeting online. We have the cost of incorporation, particularly for small businesses, the need to obtain sufficiency of compliance statement, okay, which was required. Now you can go ahead and incorporate your company. The issue of the use of a common seal, okay, you don't need all of that again. The requirement to audit your account as a small company. In fact, small company is defined as those that have turnover of 120 million and below.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't really need to have a company secretary or hold AGM or even prepare your account. But of course, we know that the tax law is different from that. So there are areas that has to be clarified, because you cannot, as a company, the definition of small company under CETA is 25 million and below. And so which means you're still liable to tax if your turnover is 120 million, okay, or thereabouts. So, and of course, to be a significant company, whether your turnover is below 120 million or not, you really want your account to be audited. And so some of those things are things that will still be clarified. But we expect that as time goes on, when the amendment is, gazetted, we expect also the CAC to issue some guidelines on the implementation. The issue of limited partnership, limited liability partnership, they're also there, which has not been in the law, even though Lagos State used to have something on that. But that will not change their tax status, because the fact that you are a partnership means that they are not liable as an entity. It is only the individual partners, whether it's limited liability partnership or just limited partnership, it is the partners that will pay tax, depending on the jurisdiction or the tax authority where they belong to. So it is a very good development in spite of cry here and there.
Indeed. Yeah,
a number of people.
Yes, I haven't said that. Let's now see, looking at people, because I read through some of this and I did also try to do some research, saying that some can want to hide under the provisions of this act, particularly the issues that about single shareholders, and people might just, don't you think people want to convert their businesses now to single shareholding companies so that they don't pay, they can evade tax?
Well, there is no provision in CAMA as it is that tends to create opportunity to evade tax. The fact that you are a single shareholder company does not mean that you are exempted from tax. It depends on your turnover. Okay. Under CETA, if your turnover is 25 million and below, you pay tax at 0%. That's corporate tax. If it is between 25 and 100, you pay at 20%, and then the large company above that at 30%. So the ownership does not determine your tax rate. And of course, I must also say that moving from a business entity, I mean incorporated enterprises that are not limited, okay, to an incorporated entity will actually increase your tax. Because as a sole trader, you are liable to tax in your own name under the Personal Income Tax Act. Okay. And the possible maximum rate of tax is about 19.2%. But immediately you are incorporated, depending on your turnover, it can be 0, it can be 20%, and it can go as high as 30%. So there is really no opportunity to, it has not created opportunity for tax evasion. It's actually a situation where a company can be said to be credible. If you are incorporated, you want to take loan from a bank, you know, want to have partnership, have collaboration with foreign entities, they actually require a limited liability company. So that will make your business, you know, more accessible by people who want to invest in you. So that, and of course, that is now devoid from you as an individual sole trader. That is the major reason why, you know, single shareholder company, you know, is a positive development.
Okay,
yes,
so it's more positive than even negative. Thanks for that clarity, and I'm sure Nigerians would also appreciate that. With efforts by the regulators, we saw the FRS coming out to clarify and actually state eligible transactions. I think that's where it's under the new stamp duty. Would you say they've done enough, or would you say Nigerians now understand the new tax administration that we run at the moment? Because a lot of changes at the moment.
Well, like I said earlier, I mean, the last presentation, the Stamp Duties Act that we have was minimally amended under the Finance Act 2019. Before then, the old law still remained in 1939 law. And so we cannot say that we have gotten there. Of course, the awareness is there now. A lot of people are aware of what stamp duty is, which is a duty you pay to make an instrument to be admissible in evidence in a court of law, and of course, for revenue generation. Okay, quite some areas have been clarified. The issue of bank transfer, electronic transfer, which is being charged now at 15 naira for every transfer. Of course, the issue of lease and rent has been clarified by FRS, which is the fact that it is 0.78 kobo, okay? And that is very straightforward. There are still some areas that are still unclear. For example, you talk about government contract. There's no government contract in the Stamp Duties Act 1939, okay? But that has been brought in now under contract. All we have is contract, and under contract, the effective rate, I mean the applicable basis for stamp duty is fixed, which means regardless of the value of the transaction. But the FRS has come up with a government contract, and truly, when you talk about government contract, the question is, who is the beneficiary of the contract? It is the government, it's the contractee. So it is the contractee that should be paying, not the contractor. Okay. And of course, if government is the person due to pay stamp duty, the Stamp Duties Act says any duty, any instrument for which the government is liable to pay is exempt. So the question is, contract really with government, is it dutiable as of today, except an amendment is made? Of course, we know that the federal government is making efforts to amend the Stamp Duties Act so that we can't, all of these proposals that have been put in place or that are being implemented somehow would now have the backing of the law. Until then, it could result to some litigation. So there are still some areas that have not been truly clarified.
Indeed, I'd like to go on this. I'd like to touch on this because it's also been generating comments from all angles. It's talking about religious bodies. I've seen associations come out to say, no, the president must revisit this law, that it's not, it doesn't favor them. Let's just put it that way. That's the way they said it, according to Christian Association of Nigeria and other that have to do with religious bodies. Now, how does this come to you, their reaction and the law in itself?
Okay, the provision you're referring to is actually from Section 823 to 839, specifically 839, okay, and that is the one that the religious bodies are not too disposed to. They believe that that gives a lot of power to the CAC to use it as a weapon for political reason. That's the only way I can look at it. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with the provision. It says that if you are registered with the CAC, you should be open to regulation, not control. Okay, and so if you are open to regulation, you're expected to file a return. And for me, it is only where a member of the organization, of the body, petition for inappropriate organization, management, that CAC can take action. And so we expect that CAC will come out with a guideline to say that maybe the fear is that it is possible to appoint a non-member of the organization to take over the trustees. Maybe that is really the fear. The regulation, the guidelines can also clarify that area to say that if XYZ organization has issue and there is a need to remove the trustees, the administrator that will be appointed to take over will be a person that is also familiar with such organization. Yeah. Not that you appoint a pastor to go and take over a mosque, for example. Okay, I think those are the areas that they are not too clear. Otherwise, as a church, you're not liable to tax if the only income you have is from your church activity. But if a church or if an organization goes into business venture of any form, just like any person going into any business, such an organization will be liable to tax on the income derived from the business activity, but not from the religious or organization or the activity of the NGO. No. It is, people have also compared it with the charity provision in the UK, where governments sometimes even give grants to such charitable organizations. We have not had the opportunity of religious organizations getting grants here, but that does not remove them from being regulated by CAC. It is just a clarification of that provision in section 839, where it says that even the CAC may even, by ex parte order, which means you are not putting the other party on notice. I think those are the areas that need to be
cleared. Now, before we end, let's talk about some more other great. You are the professional here. Yeah. You've studied this document. You've seen all about it, because a lot of 800 and something, input in this small document. I'm looking at the year 2020. Government is trying all angles to make money. CAMA, stamp duty, and everywhere. Money is coming. We can just see, just trying to get money from the non-oil sector, which is the way to go if we agree. But as a professional, what are your expectations? What are your suggestions? What are you telling your clients at this time?
Well, majorly, from the government angle, Nigeria is sliding into recession.
Yes.
Hopefully, it will not be as deep as we have seen in other climes. And so, therefore, federal governments need to raise revenue. But of course, in the course of raising revenue, they also need to remember that the taxpayers, who have been compliant, also need palliative. True. I know that the Federal Inland Revenue Service has given palliative on waiver of penalty and interest, which is supposed to expire today. Okay, I expect that they will extend it, and hopefully, if they are listening, I believe that is something that should be extended to December, because it is not like the COVID-19 problem is gone. We're just actually realizing the impact is coming up now. So I expect that such palliative will be extended. Lagos State government has done something. Several other states have come up. So what we expect is that government wants to generate revenue. We have taken so much loan. We need to pay back. Okay, and so you must also realize that where you are collecting taxes from, they are also facing the same problem. So they need to go back and look at what other palliative can we give so that they will make it easy for the taxpayers to comply. Okay, the advice to our client is just do your best to be compliant. Okay, because government is at the edge. They will want to have people taking a scapegoat for taxes, evasion here and there. True. But as much as possible, we expect government will also understand, give palliative. As there's no limit. I don't understand. I mean, you cannot say it is over now and therefore going forward everything is okay. You need to pay your penalty and interest.
Transition period.
You need support. Again, they need to look at other areas. Okay, the informal sectors are still untapped. I believe that government can begin to engage those sectors one after the other, so that even if it is 500 naira a month, the small unorganized sectors can bring in, go ahead and collect, so that the formal sector that are relatively compliant are not overburdened with excessive increase in taxes and removal of palliative. So I think those are areas that government look at.
So if this is done in 60 seconds, does it show that we could improve that GDP, tax to GDP ratio that we've been doing around 6% for a long time? Is there any hope with this COVID-19 that Nigeria will improve anytime soon?
Well, in this situation, if the best thing that government should aim for is to maintain what they have.
True.
Aiming to improve to a higher rate will be a hard sell. Okay, but of course, if they can maintain it, maintain what you have. In a situation like this, you want to maintain what you have, which is those who are paying, ensure that they are still able to pay by giving them the necessary incentive to pay.
Indeed.
Not something that will make them to, look for possible ways of avoiding payment. Okay, those who have not been paying, encourage them to pay.
Yeah.
At least you'll probably be able to maintain the 6% tax to GDP ratio. Otherwise, we may just have it the other way.
Thank you so much. It's always
It is my
interesting
pleasure.
talking tax, especially with you. Thank you so much. I've been talking to managing consultant, Pedabo, Mr. Albert Folorunso. Thank you very much for spending your Monday with us on Business Nigeria.
Thank you, and happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you so much for that.